We're still waiting for the Canes, by the way. The extra day off. It feels like they should be playing tonight. They're not. I get it. But guess who else it's a long wait for? The Rangers.
Oh, those guys? Them?
That's a long time to think about the biggest amount of pressure they've been under in a very, very long time. To stew in their own thoughts, the what-ifs creeping into their brain, the travel down to Raleigh. The Rangers haven't faced this kind of pressure yet this season, and I think it's a fair question to ask. Can the Rangers handle pressure? It hasn't been proven yet. You may say they're good. I would not deny it. You may say they're talented. I'll agree with you.
Yeah.
Can they handle pressure? Remains to be seen. The jury's still out. I went and looked at some of the Rangers' season today. Did a little deep dive. The Rangers took over sole possession of first place in the Metropolitan Division on October 28th. Never relinquished it. From October 28th till the end of the year, even though there were a few times it felt like the Canes were close or somebody knocking on the door, the Rangers took over sole possession at the top of the division and did not relinquish it beginning October 28th. You may say, well, what point they had won 6 of their first 8 games to break a tie with Carolina to take the points lead away from the Canes, and they held that points lead in the division for the rest of the season. They won the President's Trophy. They won their first 7 playoff games consecutively. A sweep followed by winning the first 3 games of the second round. You may be sitting there saying, sounds like you're just reading a pretty positive resume of the New York Rangers.
That's pretty easy to do.
That's one of them. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. But it's also to point out that they then lost their last 2, including a third period that was, you just heard the highlights from, all Canes in Game 5. I don't know if we've seen them battle back from adversity. We've seen the Canes battle back from adversity. They had legitimately bad stretches. They had points in the season where it felt like they had to, not only they felt like they had to, they did have players-only meetings to get together and talk about how things were going off the rails. They had their starting goalie miss 4 months in the middle of the season. I don't know how the Rangers deal with pressure, which is interesting because now they're facing a lot of it in Raleigh. If you don't win, it's a Game 7. All of it is the weight of a collapse potentially being on your shoulders. There's a lot going on right now.
Carolina's facing the pressure of 2 straight elimination games and coming out with wins. That's pressure in and of itself, including on the road. Carolina
has a ton of pressure on them, but we've seen them react already to pressure. Peter Laviolette, the coach of the Rangers, on the difference in closeout games.
They're all hard. The fourth one's hard because I think the more your back gets up against the wall as an opponent, the better, the more your game is, the better your game is, the more intense it is. And so, putting teams away is I think something that you know that's going to be a good battle. It's going to be a good grind because they're playing for their lives, and that's just, I think, the nature of human beings. At some point, right, you're fighting for your life and you're really digging in. And so, in order to get to that point for the 4th win, you really got to make sure that your game is on point as well.
I think it's interesting you bring up like human beings, right? Almost like you wanted to go down to the instincts, the biology of it. Well, when you're faced with a challenge and your instincts and your biology, what's the saying? It's not everybody bows their neck and fights back. That's not what happens. There's 2 options, right? Fight or flight. What we've seen over the last 2 games is we know what side of that the Hurricanes fall on. Back against the wall, fight or flight, they're going to fight. We don't know what the Rangers do yet. Jacob Trouba talked to the media earlier today. This is what he had to say about what it's going to take to win Game 6.
Just play our game. I don't think we want to get into too much of playing a certain way. I think there's an identity that we have that's fast, it's physical, it's a little bit of tenaciousness. I think that's when we're at our best, and you don't want to try to, change your game to the position that you're in. You want to play the same game that you've built and you trust in and believe in, and I think that we know in this room what that game is, and that's the game we want to play.
We all knew that kid growing up, right? Kid that made every team. Maybe was at tryouts, but coach was saying, "Oh, do you need a rest? You don't have to go out there for tryouts. If you just want to, I know what basketball season just got over and baseball's just starting to take a rest. It's tryouts. No, you made the team. Got straight A's.
Yeah.
Teacher's best friend, but also sat in the back and cracked jokes. It's like, how did this happen? Was the lead in every school play. But it did feel like once they hit the real world, they're going to get smacked in the face a little bit here, right? Once the first time they don't get their first job or the first time their boss says, I need those TPS reports by this morning and it's this afternoon, that they were going to crumble a little bit. Could that be the Rangers? Straight A's in the regular season. Lead in the school play in the first round. Made every team for 3 games in the second round.
Everyone loves you.
Oh, everybody. Prom king.
Yeah, exactly. Homecoming king, too.
All of it. It had to be the everybody's favorite, right? The never got in trouble, not because they didn't do anything wrong, but because the teachers would just look at them and go, "Oh, it's just you being you.
It's fine."
You'd make them laugh. A charmer.
Yeah, there you go.
And then once it became the time where it's like, no, actually, you have to perform. Like, it became the real world, right? Like, rent is due. You got to pay for groceries, insurance. Do you have insurance on your car? Like, when all that happened, all of a sudden, they weren't as cool anymore. Didn't even show up to the 10-year reunion. We all knew that kid growing up. Could that be the Rangers? And the Canes over the last 2 games just gave them their very first test of adversity, their very first bit of obstacle that they had to overcome. Could that be? I'll tell you what, as a Canes fan, I hope that's the case. Right? Because we'll even leave the analogy in the past. We've seen athletic teams, sports teams, where when everything's going well, they're hunky-dory. First sign of loss, all of a sudden there's blaming, there's finger pointing, there's why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that? You don't know what's going on behind those scenes, behind closed doors. We know what the Canes do when they face adversity because we've seen it. They bow their neck and they fight back. You don't win those last 2 games if that's not what you're built out of. We don't know if that's the case with the Rangers. And the Rangers now, as they deal with that, might be facing an even more desperate Carolina Hurricanes team, at least if you listen to Jordan Martinook here.
Yeah, I think they're trying to close it out, and we're fighting for our lives. So it's 2 teams that we're trying to win a hockey game, but we need to bring what we brought last game and bring even a little more, so we can try and make this thing go 7.
Even more desperate. I don't know. The Canes seemed pretty desperate in that third period. Even more?
Mm-hmm.
Is there another level? A whole nother level.
Take it there.